Summer of Punk, it was a blast until he ran into Kevin Nash. He hit a clothesline after the 3, hit a jackknife sloppy as can be, and Kevin Nash got away despite all of his torn quads. Well, Del Rio came down and cashed it in. He hit a big old kick to the face for the win. Summer of Punk, it was a blast, but oh boy, those Kevin Nash nights. I'm John Renton with the Retro Review of WWE SummerSlam 2021. Boy, I just love butchering classic songs, don't I? It's a whole lot of fun, and this show was a whole lot of fun, despite the really bad commentary. I forgot after almost 10 years to the day of this show coming out, the commentary is really goddamn ass. When Jerry Lawler is your best commentator in 2011, that's not a good thing. This is during peak heel Michael Cole. Even though he was trying to tone things down, he was really super goddamn annoying, as opposed to being the goddamn worthless puppet that he is now. And Booker T was not a good commentator. Booker T is an entertaining guy. He was not a good commentator. He's fucking horrible. So this is in the Staples Center in LA. One of, I believe, a string of times that they were in the Staples Center until they moved to the Barclays Center. 17,400 some odd people. Maybe it's an inflated number. Who the hell knows? The Staples Center does hold a lot of people, and there was a really hot crowd for a show that even with the dips, like this SummerSlam still holds up. This is a fucking tremendous event with a lot of great storylines, and it did cap off the Summer of Punk, and man, they really fucking botched the shit out of that, didn't they? They hotshot too much of it. It was fucking ridiculous. After Money in the Bank and after him leaving and then showing up like, 8 days later, they then did the whole thing where John Cena beat Rey Mysterio after Rey Mysterio had just won the WWE Championship in the finals of that tournament where he beat The Miz, because John Cena is a babyface, and that is exactly what babyfaces do. They beat people that have already been in a match, but it wasn't set up Punk versus Cena. But other matches happened on the show because it would have been really bad even for talents like John Cena and CM Punk at this time to carry the whole goddamn show, even though that was the main event. Dolph Ziggler took on Alex Riley, and man, they just gave up on Alex Riley right after the feud with The Miz. I mean, rumors are that Cena was the one that didn't like him and stuff like that, or maybe they realized that Alex Riley was only really good for the Miz feud. I don't really know what the dealings were, but man, he just fell into a goddamn hole. He couldn't get out of it. Then we have Adam Jones, not Adam Pac-Man Jones, from Tool. And now a bunch of Tool songs are playing in my head and are playing in your head as well. And he plays the national anthem. Okay, that was kind of cool. We get a voiceover with Hollywood landmarks and everything and the WWE talents. And then the dominoes are set up to fall. What's going to happen? Who's going to be the undisputed WWE champion? Will it continue the Summer of Punk? Or will John Cena get the victory? If you've seen this pay-per-view, you already know, and I'm just going to spoil it right now because it's been 10 years. CM Punk won, and in the end, we must all pick up the pieces. Pick up the pieces. I'm just going to shoehorn a bunch of song references in here. And unfortunately, the first voice that we hear once the broadcast goes live is heel Michael Cole. And it's just terrible. Fucking goddamn terrible. There was a time where Michael Cole and Taz were a good commentary duo. Here's the thing, that ended in 2006. And, you know, for those who can't do math very well, and, you know, I know it's not Steiner math, that was 15 years ago, a little over 15 years ago. And he has just become more of a puppet, and it's gotten ridiculous. So anyway, enough dumping on Michael Cole. Except I'm going to totally do it a little bit later. Miz is here, and Cole fangirls, fanboys, and fans everywhere. Fan dancing, fandango. Wait, no, he hasn't shown up yet. It would be about a year and a half until he would show up. And then Truth talks about, you know, the letter S, which, you know, stands for SummerSlam or whatever. And then C, which also stands for conspiracy. Because this is when heel Truth was just talking to himself and having a whole bunch of fun. And man, heel Truth was a fucking godsend. It really was. It's fucking great. Then here's Del Rio too. A lot of cheers. What a difference a decade makes. Now, nobody with a working brainstem wants to cheer for Del Rio. And apparently nobody wanted to go to that show that him and Andrade headlined because, my God, that was just fucking ridiculous. Like, it was like 6,000 people, you know, a 6,000 seat venue, and I think it had maybe 1,700 people. Even WCW in 1990 didn't do shit that bad. Actually, they did worse, because Jim Herd, fuck Jim Herd, what the hell did he do to that goddamn company? Everybody's here, all the heels are just, you know, all the heels are like, you know, celebrating everything, and it's an impromptu 6-man tag. where it's Miz, Truth, and Del Rio versus John Morrison, Ray, and Kofi. And Ray, from nearby San Diego, or San Diego, haha, I'm proud of this one. And Kofi, this is still when, I find it so funny that he had dropped a Jamaican accent. He kind of had to when his mom revealed the whole thing that, like, oh, wait, Kofi, weren't you Jamaican just a second ago? And he had to drop that, but they still had the SOS stuff and everything because this is pre-New Day. And this is the fun opener. Kind of reminded me of the SummerSlam 1991 opener, where it was just a whole lot of fun. And had, I believe it was British Bulldog, Ricky Steamboat, and Kerry Von Erich against the Warlord and a couple people I can't quite fucking remember. And I'm irritated. I think Mr. Perfect might have been on the other end. But, a lot of shit going on in my head. But it was a fun 6-man opener. And the tag work was good. Commentary was especially ass because, again, when Jerry Lawler is your best commentator in, 2011, you are in fucking trouble. In Booker T, boy, maybe they were right. Maybe, he shouldn't have been doing commentary. We get a melee, we get dives, and a frog splash by Ray on Truth. 1, 2, 3. And then Punk is being asked by John Laurinaitis, Mr. Excitement, to apologize. You can't not do the John Laurinaitis voice because that piece of shit deserves to be mocked endlessly until the day that he croaks. Because he already sounds like he's croaking. I swear he's part bullfrog. And I'm not talking Hey Bullfrog from the I Know What You Did Last Summer soundtrack. What am I even on about? He, he's like, oh, you need to apologize for that inadvertent kick or whatever. And then Punk's like, I'm sorry, John Lord. That's just dripping in it was dripping in so much sarcasm that I think I need a shower afterwards. And then Stephanie wants to wish Punk good luck or whatever, and that both Vince and Triple H did, and even John Cena did. And back and forth, and she said, you called me, this kind of stuff. Actually, no, I called you idiotic. And then she tries to shake his hand. He's like, I would, but I know where that hand's been. Oh, that was funny. It was just funny. Because mocking Stephanie is really fun to do. And I'm actually coming up on, I'm doing the retro reviews of the Invasion angle. And I'm almost at the point where I'm going to be doing the post 9/11 SmackDown, where she compares the deaths of 3,000 people to what her family went through with the steroid trial. And in case they decide to edit that out, the clip is on YouTube, and I'm going to write all that shit down, and I'm going to mock her endlessly, because a stupid trash heap deserves it. So anyway, back to this. Mark Henry versus Sheamus. Hoss fight, fella! And this is when Mark Henry was on the ascent, when he wasn't getting injured all the time. And I love Mark Henry. The Hall of Pain stuff was great. The guy just spent as much time on the injured list as Rey Mysterio did between 2006 and 2014. It's amazing. I think Bobby Fish might have beat the record, as far as spending more time on the injured list. But the whole point is, Henry, when he was on, he was really damn good. This heel run was great. And there were some funny lines during this, though, where Mark Henry had done the whole thing where he had dropped, Sheamus was on the ropes, and he had dropped through and everything, and slammed on him. Not like kind of like the Ray Trailer thing that he used to do, the Big Boss Man. Rest in peace, Big Boss Man. He just left a skid mark on that boy, was what Booker said. And then Cole quickly references that Sheamus had taken down the Great Khali recently, the 7'3", 420-pound Great Khali. So his quote was, Sheamus can get it done with really big men. Fella! Anyway, some of the lines just make me laugh because I'm such a mature individual, so naturally I would not turn any of this stuff dirty, except I totally have, and you haven't paid attention to any of the review or any of the other reviews if you believe I run a clean show. So it ends with a barricade break, nearly destroying a fan. This fan it was either a fan or security guy that just got out of the way, and it ended by a countout. But it was a good way to build sympathy for Sheamus, and then he would show up. He would show off in the 2012 Rumble. You remember the Rumble that at the time Chris Jericho probably should have won, but it was what it was, because turning Sheamus babyface in 18 seconds over beating Daniel Bryan, that was a great idea. And he feuded with Del Rio for the next 15 fucking years. I think they're still feuding. They'll be feuding when this planet is blown up and half the world is radioactive, bitch, radioactive. So Christian has a trick up his sleeve. Does not have a Twix up his sleeve because he actually didn't technically have sleeves, so it would have been hard to hide that there. He compares himself to Harry Potter, while Orton is, cowboys and aliens. Overhyped and, a big box office flop. To be fair, Cowboys and Aliens was shit. Also, there was no good reason for Josh Matthews, in general, not just in wrestling. Hate that goddamn piece of shit. Get him the fuck out of here. His parents should have practiced safe. Moving on. So why was CeeLo Green here, and why'd they send the women out to dance with them? Oh yeah, this reminded me that I never really cared for the Bellas, and this is pretty much what they used the Bellas for at the time. Seriously, they just used them to go out there with the guest hosts. And Rosa Mendez as well and everything. But CeeLo Green, who maybe he's a nice guy, I don't goddamn know. These songs were shit. And there's no need for a bunch of this rap crap in my wrestling. And yeah, I'm going to, do a little gatekeeping, I suppose, because the West Texas rednecks were right. Oh, it's like, I hate rap. Rap is crap. Oh, I hate rap. Oh, rap. Not all rap is bad. I just don't care for a lot of new stuff. And let's be honest, a lot of new music anyway, in general, really isn't all that good. So we get Beth Phoenix with Natalya versus Kelly. Kelly with Eve. And this was a freaking dumpster fire. Only because, and look, Kelly, bless her, had no training, got sent into the ring, and eventually had to just get to where she learned how to do stuff. And to her credit, she did what she could. But she wasn't any good. She shouldn't have been the champion. Beth Phoenix was miles and miles ahead of her. Beth, on her worst day, was miles and miles ahead of Kelly. And this is what they thought of the women. Divas Championship, I basically wrote down poor Beth Phoenix having to sell for somebody who wasn't very good. There's a lot of hair pulling. This is the second most amount of dirty blonde hair pulling I've seen on the internet. You don't want to know about the first, or maybe you do, but always delete your search history. So, Kelly with a flying candy cane, Cole says. I have an answer for the flying candy cane, but I can't tell it, says Waller. All right. I mean, Kelly's a little bit old for him. Anyway, so bless Beth for trying. We get a springboard rack. Well, she actually, is just getting the rack on. She's jerking her down and everything. And then she tries with a glam slam. And then the most devastating maneuver in all professional wrestling, surprise roll. A victory roll, 1, 2, 3. Beth Phoenix gets pinned by Kelly. And women's wrestling takes a fucking dip in WWE. This is nothing against Kelly, but Beth Phoenix should have been the champion for about a goddamn year. And I'm sorry. I think she even lost at Night of Champions, which was in Buffalo, New York, the next month. And she did some pretty damn good, at least I recall correctly. But Beth Phoenix had no business losing to Kelly. It's entertainment, but guess what? This wasn't entertaining. You're trying to build a women's division. Now make a joke out of it. So anyway, Steph then leaves Cena's locker room. Whoop-a-doo. So Truth is then talking to Jimmy Hart about conspiracy theories, and you need somebody to take you to the top or whatever, see the big picture and everything. He's like, yeah, think big and not little, Jimmy. Little Jimmy? Are you little Jimmy? This shouldn't have worked. Truth should not have, been able to even make this work as good as he is. He says, and he was able to do it or whatever. And Jimmy Hart, by the way, looks the same there. He looks the same now as he did back then. It was only 10 years, and he's like almost 80. He's going to outlive everybody. Then Truth yells, what are you looking at? And it's Ron Artest and his kid. Remember Ron Artest? Back when the Malice at the Palace and all that stuff and everything. And then he kept, getting contracts despite the fact that after a while it was pretty obvious that he was a rough and tough player, but he wasn't very good, especially in the last few years. And very few players are, but got a lot of money to really have diminishing returns for a lot of teams. Anyway, Daniel Bryan versus Wade Barrett. Daniel Bryan was the Money in the Bank contract holder for the World Heavyweight Championship shot, because this is when they had the 2 championships. Thank God they aren't doing 2 championships. Oh, the whole point is they were doing everything they could, by the way, to kind of neuter Daniel Bryan at this point. Yes, he was on the ascent. And heel Michael Cole, you're supposed to have somebody knock him and everything. Here's the thing. Jesse Ventura, great heel commentator. Don West as a heel commentator. Hopefully Don West gets healthy. Don West was not a good heel commentator. Heel Michael Cole is better than Mark Madden, but then again, I've shat things out that were better than Mark Madden's commentary. The whole point is, though, is it got really annoying. The commentary I can't emphasize enough just how bad it was. Match was very good. They were playing kicks, strikes, punch, it's all in the mind. And, good momentum switches. Daniel Bryan's very good. This is when Wade Barrett, before the injury bug got a hold of him and he wouldn't let go. And commentary mentioned how he's a future world champion. About that. He probably would have been had they had him win at SummerSlam 2010. But no, they couldn't because John Cena had to rise above hate, whoop-a-doo, and beat the Nexus. Which effectively killed what momentum the Nexus had. Even if the Nexus wouldn't end up ultimately working out, that was such a fucking misfire. I retro-reviewed that last year if you want to check it out. So, after Daniel Bryan gets crotch on the ropes, huge lariat, wasteland, 1, 2, 3. Wade celebrates. And then we get Christian versus Orton, no holds barred match for the World Heavyweight Championship. So, bit of a timeline here for those that maybe aren't familiar, maybe some that forgot. Edge had relinquished the World Heavyweight Championship due to, neck injury. He was able to come back some, almost, it was just or just under 9 years later. And he, was able to come back and do all that stuff. Well, he had to relinquish the championship. Del Rio and Christian had a ladder match at Extreme Rules 2011. And Edge showed up and distracted Del Rio, and Christian got the victory. And then lost the championship to Randy Orton a few days later on SmackDown. They had a terrific match at Over the Limit 2011 that I was at. That was great stuff. And then at, I believe, Capital Punishment. And then they did the whole thing of Money in the Bank, which I also retro-reviewed. And it was a DQ thing. If Orton gets DQ'd, he gets too angry, gets DQ'd. He did, but then he got fucking laid out. Christian did. Basically, Christian won by disqualification, but then Orton just laid him the fuck out. I mean, destroyed him. The crowd was eating it up. And Christian's whole title reign was just fucking neutered right there. And then he had this idea for this, like, grand, this like, great idea to have somebody in his corner to throw Orton off. And it's Edge. And Edge is here, gets a huge pop and everything. He goes over how, he can't compete again and everything. Miracle of medical science, and also desperation, and Vince realizing, shit, well, maybe I should get some money out of this guy still, if he can wrestle. So anyway, he talks about, passing the torch to Christian, all the stuff I told you. He's like, but then you lost the championship, and then you complained about it. And he did it again, and again, and again. You kept getting opportunities after opportunity after opportunity. I'm not knocking you. But he basically says, I didn't know that my best friend in the world would become such a whining, crying little bitch. And there you go. And then he leaves. And, so Edge, gets the pop and everything. And then Orton comes out and they have their match. No holds barred match. And this is pretty good. This is pretty fucking terrific. This was an example of how you can utilize weapons and actually make it work. Sure, it got a little bit ridiculous. But considering this is PG, 3 years into PG, they did the best they goddamn could, and they really worked hard. Hard hitting, they built to the weapon spots. Christian runs into the crowd after Orton tries to RKO him on the announcer's table, and Orton gets him. Later, a kendo stick and a Canadian, pressing down on somebody else's throat or whatever to choke them out or whatever. Well, I see that somebody was focused on an Atlanta, Georgia case. Moving on. So if they had just tapped. Anyway, so we get counters and reversals aplenty. We get the tables out. At one point, superplex onto a flat table, which probably hurt like a goddamn bitch. And there was a table also set up outside the ring. The steps get involved, or whatever. Just gaining sentience and crawling in the ring. Very uncomfortable, very scary. Sky steps to become self-aware, and we are all doomed. So, then we get... Orton, with an RKO through the announcer's table, good stuff. And then Orton's arm was bleeding. I don't know if he cut it right above, maybe his elbow pad or something. I think it was right below because it was bleeding a little bit. And then he gets hit with the kill switch. Oh no, 1-2, and then kick out. We get missed a missed concerto. That is, we get a table bump. Orton sends Christian through that outside. We get trash cans. A DDT through the trash can. It actually was kind of funny how Orton dented it a little bit and then, set up to hit the DDT. But he did it smoothly where it didn't look that contrived. It looked contrived, but Orton is smooth in the ring. His Venomous Viper is so smooth that the golden showers pour out. Have fun unseeing that. And we get an RKO on the steps. 1, 2, 3. Ouch. Ouch. And then we get fan access footage and everything. With some people there still with the company and, particularly Evan Bourne, who is now All Elite. What a difference a decade makes. And CM Punk gets a big pop and stares down Triple H, who's a special guest referee for this forthcoming contest. John Cena gets heavy boos. He gets some cheers, even by... And some people, again, think that John Cena is the greatest of all time. Even some that were allowed out of their house without adult supervision. If you guys like John Cena, by the way, that's fine. It's just fine to do that because I have some, friends I talked to for a while that watch my videos, and I love to annoy you. So John Cena versus CM Punk. Undisputed WWE Championship match. Triple H as a referee. CM Punk, CM Punk, CM Punk. I would argue the atmosphere of Money in the Bank 2011 is impossible to beat. Nothing can beat that. That is atmosphere that they can never recapture. This match, as far as crispness, easy for me to say, was just a little bit better. Crowd was into it. It started slow with some good submission-based, wrestling, some good mat work, some good strikes. Fruity Pebbles chants. That was kind of funny. And then later, both are outside the ring. Triple H is up to 9. And then throws them both in the ring and says, no, fuck it, we're not going to do a double count. What the fuck are we doing? We're not WCW ruining this thing. We're not going to become WCW 2000 until 10 years later. So anyway, we then get boo, yay, 1, 2, 1, 2. And then the crowd was into this, STF, and then soon after, even though Punk escapes, gets hit with the AA 4-2. And Cena was not happy. He misses the leg drop off the top, which it looked like he really jammed himself. That looked painful. That impressive when he hits it, but goddamn. And then GTS for 2. Sky Elbow for 2. Randy Savage, who had just passed away a few months before. Really wish Vince hadn't been up. Okay, I know that the story is that Randy wanted the entire Poffo family inducted in the Hall of Fame. I just wish that there was some way to work it out where Randy could have been inducted by himself and they could have inducted the Poffo family a little bit later. Because Vince, there was, I don't want to say blame on both sides because I'm glad that Randy was a family man. I just wish that Vince hadn't been as petty and had brought Randy Savage back. Just I don't know, Mania 20, Mania 21, something. Hell, even Mania, I don't know. It just would have been really nice to see Randy inducted in the Hall of Fame before his untimely passing. And then we wouldn't have to, have Lanny Poffo, blowing himself and everything, during that Hall of Fame speech. Moving on. We get a knee in the ropes and then a GTS 1, 2, 3, but Cena's foot's on the rope. Oh no, commentary saying his foot was on the rope, Well, John Cena's like, okay, whatever. He relents. It was what it was. He leaves. And then Punk, doesn't shake Triple H's hand, but Triple H raises his arm. He's like, okay, a little bit confused here. He's celebrating. Triple H is, getting ready. He's staring out there, and then he's going back. And then suddenly, how Kevin Nash managed to pull this off, considering, A, he was really injured at this time because he was a big guy, and he's gotten those issues fixed since. Apparently, he really had, apparently one of his knees is really screwed up, which is why he had so many injuries, and now he's even better. But he's somehow managed to get through the crowd. They do this shot where you can see, the Nash is coming down, and you can clearly see it, and then the camera's like, shit, we need to cut away. And then suddenly, where's Kevin Nash? Or how did Kevin Nash get here? We just fucking saw him. Limping his goddamn 7-foot ass down there. And he hits a clothesline, then hits a jackknife, tears his quad in the process, and then leaves the ring, tears in his other quad in the process. Torn quad jokes are funny, because Vince tore both of his quads at once because he had to outdo one of the boys. So then Triple H is like, what the hell's going on? Del Rio shows up with a referee, cashes in, hits a kick, 1, 2, 3, and he's the new undisputed WWE champion. And so the Summer of Punk ends with a goddamn whimper, and oh, those summer nights. Boy, that was really shoehorned in there. This was a great SummerSlam, but unfortunately would begin a trajectory, easy for me to say. I'm just going to say it would begin a downslide as far as... Suppose as an upslide. You can't really upslide. It would begin a bit of a downturn as far as stuff that would not really work out. Yes, Punk would win the title back at Survivor Series 2011, and Howard Finkel would make an appearance, and you could tell how overjoyed he was, and that was a big deal. And it was in Madison Square Garden, but it wasn't the same. The whole thing was just botched. It was really, really botched. Del Rio really shouldn't have been WWE champion, especially looking at how he was just a couple years later, but especially now. Anyway, agree, disagree, what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.